Okay, so the game's just begin, and right now we will be mainly having a look at the game with Timea and oops, seems that there is a problem with the layout. Okay, with Timea and Adam, and we are following Timea with blue here. So they went for a right side elephant against center elephant, beginning with the knight, and already bringing the pawn there may not be the best idea because it isolates from the center, and the pawn here is pinned because of the rook pawn there, but the cannon cannot take the rook because there is the knight protecting, but still that creates a hole. It's better to maybe bring some pieces into the game rather than moving point toward the side of the board. And they play actually quite fast the game. Alright, and here blue went for having both elephants here in the center, and what's good is to use the file at some point that would create a pin of the knight and maybe sacrificing the elephant, because if pawn takes elephant, yeah, in that case rook takes, and that rook will need to be activated. The counterpart is that red could push here to block the elephant. He could do that if the rook is not here, and that would be quite annoying for this elephant. But right now both players brought their cannons to the center and achieved the development of pieces. In that case you have two linked pawns like this, and they are quite solid, especially against a rook, and there's no elephant to take a pawn or whatever. So by pushing the pawn you prevent the rook from leaving the file, from gaining that row and staying there, but at the same point you create a weakness, and for example pawn push here, and now that pawn begins vulnerable since the rook is pinned. So there may be an advantage here for red if the pawn is pushed, but we'll see what red play, and waiting for that we are now having a look at the game between Fabian and Simon. So they played only 3 moves, so that's way slower, maybe to avoid mistake, and blue went for inner elephant while red went for side elephant. I say side because even if it's left or right, since here at the center it's a symmetric configuration. And here red decided to go that and to do the early push of this pawn, which can be good, especially if it's supported by something else. And one way to react for blue maybe simply to link those pawns and get some space for your pieces. The knight here cannot go there because the pawn is here, but sometimes there is a like knight here, not yet, but yeah, blocking. So red is really wants to control the center with pawns, even if the elephant doesn't leave the spot. But as we said, the elephant can quickly jump into the game, while blue will mainly use the pieces and could have some use for like cannon here and cannon here, try to win a rook. But maybe before cannon here it's better to free the space for the elephant. A lot of different positions here. Oh, sorry, I thought that it was Simon with Cho, but it's Fabian. What we also have a very interesting game between Hot Combat and Antonio, because they are second in the tournament and both with 28 points, so if there is a strong victory here, that will probably be the second place. But also don't forget that the last round will be Antonio versus Dimitri, and that's also maybe a game changer. So what's the idea here? Red went for activating both of the rooks, pushing one. For this rook it's convincing, but for this one I can't say if it's a good or a bad move. That would need a deeper analysis, and I can't do that right now. But still, here red is pushing to choke the elephant of blue, and we could think that it's a sacrifice of a pawn, but if the cannon takes the pawn that is not protected, there is the hidden threat, so simply elephant takes here, or no, here. That's better to break the pawns, and after that the cannon has to come back, and it's an exchange of pawn, but a central pawn against another, so careful for blue also in that situation. And the last game is simply Dimitri against the computer here. So that's Stockfish level 4, and Dimitri is probably winning. Check here seems very annoying. No, check here with that rook is even stronger. Yeah, you see how the cannon are well activated, and how that rook is not playing, and this one is not so much, and there's already a cannon on the guard, so it will be soon a victory for Dimitri. And let's go back to our main game with Adam and Timea. So we noticed that there was the push of the pawns, and now the rooks leaving, and there is the threat of simply elephant takes pawn. That would be quite nasty, because there's already another elephant here, so, and you cannot take back if elephant takes pawn because of the pin. And red saw that, Adam saw that, and defended with the rook, which was probably the best move to do. And blue really wants to push that wing. Maybe before pushing the wing, like hiding the king would be something to consider. And we have here the famous threat of cannon takes, but the problem, we saw that in other games, is knight threatening, so cannon here to threat the rook, and at the same time the cannon. And red saw the threat and decide to activate the rook. Blue is indeed hiding the king before finishing the push, and red now tries to gain the first file, but what's to consider is that the pawn here had been pushed, so it's not protected by anything else than the rook. So in whatever the case, if that rook moves, then this pawn is hanging. So the idea of that is maybe to leave the row, so that now this rook can also leave the row, but the cannon was nice in the center also. Okay, so now take the elephant. Yeah, oh, I missed. It was actually protecting the combination here. So what's the best bet for blue here? That cannon has only 2 squares. Maybe it's better to wait for something else, but this elephant here was doing a good job threatening this pawn and this pawn, and it will be a bit more complicated without that elephant. Blue cannot bring the rook here because there's an elephant, but definitely you want some play with this rook since you cannot get back the elephant. So red went for retreating elephant to another square, but the only square that it can reach is those 2-1, and there's no big advantage going to this square. So maybe there was more offensive ideas, and it also creates back the threat of rook here, and the defense is to bring that other pawn to the board, to the side. As you can see, blue pawns are very split onto the borders of the board, while the red pawns are straight and fine. So cannon takes back, he won an elephant, so now back home. Indeed finishing the securization of the fortress, but red can go for some push like this that would give a threat on this pawn, and even if the elephant is here, it maybe can't come back, but it will be defended. There's a lot of possibilities here for red. Cannon goes back to the center since it was used to block the combination of the cannon, and the pawn is threatened again, and the rook has to defend like this. This is not a defense that works because of the elephant. So red secured a win of 3 points by preparing this move with this cannon, and that was a combination that actually worked. And right now he's again taking this, and blue didn't consider to defend that pawn, and that the problem is that those pawns will never be linked again, and that rook will have a great way to play and to be active in the game. Elephant comes back, so we saw that elephant coming back, and there wasn't a specific gain here, but if red doesn't pay attention, there is the threat here, as we saw already. Taking, and there is a beautiful checkmate. Yeah, that's if blue does nothing, there is a very nice sacrifice. Rook takes cannon, guard take, and elephant takes. This is checkmate because that check because of the elephant, and that's also check because of the cannon, and there is nowhere to flee for the king since it's threatened or by the cannon or the pieces are blocking. Oh, but he missed the sacrifice. Still, he removed a piece from the very center, so that if rook takes, then pawn cannot take back. That's not allowed because that would create only one piece with the cannon. And here blue is in a complicated situation because the elephant is also threatening the cannon, and simply removing the elephant won't solve the issue. So that should lead to a very strong advantage for blue, for red, sorry, in a few moves. What do we have on that side of the board? No piece exchange, still 73.5 points for red and 72 for blue. And if we have a look at, sorry, the development, red secures its king, and there was a little threat of a discovery using the cannon, so red take that into consideration, but the cannon comes back and it may swap at some point here. Okay, and I had the information that Dimitri won his game against the bot. That was quite expected. So yeah, as I said, blue can play moves like this. Red finishes to protect the king. When you have the king like this with 0 square, what is important to pay attention is if an elephant goes there, that would kind of checkmate. If a knight is able to go here, that would checkmate. But here there is no risk, and as you can see, the elephant is at the center, so there's no risk that the elephant may do a path like this. If you start at this square, it's almost impossible for the elephant to reach that square in a few moves. You need a lot of triangulation and space to go there. The cannon here also supports the rook, so that may be useful, and that gives space for this cannon. Rook there to activate, probably to exchange the rook after that. And red is going for the push. That will create some weaknesses here, and we already saw that the cannon can come back. And when you are red, there's no rush so much to push. You can play a very solid position and wait simply to count and win with the points. Not saying that's a bad move, that would require more calculation, but that's aggressive for sure. And the cannon is already supported by the pawn is already supported by the cannon and almost by the knight if the elephants. But that elephant isn't doing a great job here, as you can see. There is not so much squares right now, so it's important, in my opinion, to try to find ideas about how to optimize this one. For the blue, there is the 2 elephants there and they haven't moved yet, but we can have some threats that can come very quick here. That's not there's no big deal right now, but the elephant can go fast into the game. And about the knights, they may go here, but that square is protected by the elephant, so that's okay. The risk may be cannon here, that would force or linking the pawn but created weaknesses, or to go back there and that would block that elephant. That's what blue can hope for. What about our game here? So let me have a look. Elephant takes the guard, probably to give an exit square to the king, but sacrificing the cannon. There was no choice about losing the cannon. Bringing the cannon here because the cannon there was already threatening that square. Elephant goes back and there is a risk of a rook check, for example, or no, maybe a rook here to gain something. So the best was probably to move the king to another file, because this one is a bit toxic and it won't be possible to bring a cannon or to bring even more material here. At the spawn, as you can see, blue expected that red would take back to take the knight, but when you take the pawn, there's no forcing for red to simply take the elephant, and indeed red went for something else. And now, since red has a great advantage, that's 68.5 points against 56, going for exchanging material is the best way to go. That would lead to probably a longer game, but for sure a win, and there is enough pawns to to dig into the fortress with that to support the other pieces. So maybe here red did a discovery check trying to win the rook, but the rook is protected with the knight, so that's simply exchanging the rook. And now red can take back the elephant because the threat is not there anymore. And blue isn't with so much material. The next step now for red is to activate this one. There's no big need to hide the king because there is not enough pressure from red. Still, it's not really hiding the king, but it's more to give some games to that cannon, some squares to go and change. Because king here also allows the rook to go after, and pawn here would be a nice scheme to bring the cannon in consideration. And when you are red, at that point, if you are able with the cannon to take a knight, simply take it and simplify. Even if you lose 2 points, the knights are playing a better job in end games rather than the cannon, especially in those situations. So red went for knight to the center. That's also a good way to control. Could have been also to link back the pawns. He will probably link back to the center, and there may be some push patterns here. And blue pushes, and the game is at that point here. For blue, the idea are more complicated to find because there is less material, and if the rook leaves that file, then that's a pawn down and an active rook, so the rook is a bit tied to this spot. But now she can move away, and that's probably the best square. For example, rook here after rook check, threatening to win that rook. So the only move is guard here and probably the cannon back to give another support. And the only way to defend is with the elephant, bringing the elephant here or the knight here to block the cannon. But since now the cannon is back, then this cannon is pinned. And we'll have a look to the game between Antonio and Haute Combat, because that's probably a decider games and we can see some advantage for Antonio. Let's have a look at what happened. We can see that the elephants are really aiming to that pawn chain, but the rook is in the other side. Still, red rook is more active than blue's rook, but the cannon there. What's quite unexpected is to notice that structure, so this guard move and this guard move, and they are still not linked, so that's actually 1 and 2 tempo to have a 1 and 2 tempo to have a solid fortress. Elephant there, that was the only square because it was a bit choked, but that's not such a good square because there is too much material, and that elephant will never play again and will probably die here. Cannon here, that's also the creative move to gain a file with the cannon, but blue considered that, and red may try to exchange or get more space. Or yeah, could go to the elephant. That was also what I talked about, and that's a nice combination because it's not possible to remove the pawn here that is used by the cannon for support, and at the same time nothing else can be brought, and the elephant has no way to be defended and nowhere to go, so the elephant will actually die, and the best is to take elephant because that's check, and after to consider the threat here to give a way back to the cannon, probably. And also, yeah, there was an elephant here, but if you take the elephant, then the pawn goes here, and there is only one square left to go for the knight in that position, and then rook here, and the knight is dead. So taking the elephant is a trap. There's also a free guard here. I don't know if it will hang out on like this. Yeah, taking that guard would have been very painful for blue, because defending with one guard and the cannon can come back into the game. Okay, the guard stayed there because here or you take the elephant and you lose, but you have to consider that, so you cannot just ignore, and maybe the best was to let that pawn out and defend and the guard and the cannon by bringing that guard here. And blue, so Haute Combat is running in time trouble right now. Alright, cannon here is secure and will be played at some point, I guess. Yeah. Okay, we'll come back to that game because it's not over, and I want to see what's with Timea and Adam. So blue managed to bring a pawn to the fortress. I'm not sure how this was possible. So rook there, cannon back, rook there. That's kind of repetition, and that would have been blue to try something else. Pawn push, and maybe the best is simply to exchange for red, but he went for the push, so the knight can now pass the pawn structure, and there may be nice squares to check. Yeah. The idea of bringing the guard is to threaten the knight, since it's not protected. The problem will be the rook that will be joining, because, for example, knight check, king here, no, not here, king here, and after the rook can go there, or something else. You have a way to trap the knight, yes, if it takes, for example, takes king here, and if knight takes, then you bring your own knight here, so that this knight is really blocked, and after that you bring the rook and you eat the knight. Knight here, king here was definitely not the best, because of course it defends the guard that was without defense, but the pawn can go here and bring a lot of threat. The rook can play, and yeah, pawn here is the best, because there may be something here that's a bit dangerous because of that, but if the calculation is right, it can actually bring to a nice situation. And what's good here with the knight is that it's controlling the central square and blocking a lot of mobility. So pawn here, as we said, and right now blue is red is a lot securing the fortress, and now the rook here can do some interesting things. Yeah, that could be interesting to think that this gain 3 points, 1 pawn, that's 2, 1 knight, that's 5, but that pawn has more potential attack to go there, not directly, but to leave that attack. It's not threatened, it's very safe here, and that guard cannot move, so keep the material, no matter if the knight can join, and bring more material to try something, because here that's a bit gain, but that's even less material, and the knight alone may not do the job, because he can't come back here because of the cannons. So it will be... oh, and the rook there is kind of burying the rook that was having a play. Of course, rook could take here if we moved there, but the best is to try something aggressive and expect, oh, mistake, and there a miss. The knight, the rook moves again. Blue seems to be out of ideas, but still the play was nice. And the question is, will red be able to conclude with checkmate, or will that lead to point counting? That's the question. What for the game with red and blue? Oh no, sorry. So red has 1 point ahead. How that's possible? There is a quad here, only one, and yeah, basically that's a guard for a pawn. I haven't followed how it went. Elephant takes. If pawn takes, then there is the discovery, and that's a knight down, so blue has to leave the elephant here, bringing the pawn, and as we said, exchanging the guard. Taking with the king to avoid the poisonous file. And red is having a better time control here, bringing also again that threat there. Knight. Bring back the knight to the center. That's a safe move. Cannon here, the idea is to have some play and bring back the cannon to the center to secure the king, so they both have their piece in their own side. And what would be the better for red to consider that pawn structure and to link the pawns, because that's less vulnerable to cannons, and avoid the knight to pass to go there, or for example if the knight wants to move. Elephant to the corner. The idea could be to go there. Indeed, leaving the elephant in the corner is a mistake, because the cannon there would force the knight to retreat. That's not what you want. But elephant to the center may have been a way to have more mobility. Knight, that's a fork, but not really. Or king, and the pawn here is blocking the elephant. Still, red can push, because the elephant is supported, and now it brings the knight to the center. Right, bringing the pawn. Elephant there can be annoying for the cannon. And the knight goes back, okay. And here we go. That game is not over, but blue is in Bayoyomi right now. For what I see, both games ended, the one with Antonio and the one with Timea and Adam, and I guess that Adam won. And I think that Antonio won. Yeah. Sorry, I have to see something. I leave you with that, and I have to check something. So Antonio won, yeah. And yeah, Team Mea lost by checkmate. Alright, so what do we have here? That's the last game, and okay, that went quite fast. Elephant takes in order to gain 2 pawns, because that's supported by a lot of materials. And red plays the intermediary move, expecting that cannon takes so that it breaks the defense. But elephant goes to the guard for sure. Now guard take, and red is now losing at the score because of the intermediary move elephant takes guard, and that cannon is not in the best situation. Cannon should very quickly be active back in the fortress, pushing. Maybe blue should have go there for something more offensive. Now it's time to use the knights. The problem of moving that knight too early is that the cannon cannot support that and jump. Knight to the corner. The idea may be to dig here, but there won't be a plan winning, and that cannon is very weak. Cannon there, right to the center. That could be interesting if red is targeting to finish the game with king opposition and maybe gain 2 points. Here, knight take came back, probably to give support to the cannon, since the idea is possible. And of course blue proposes to exchange knights, and that probably will be here the knight is not in a great square because of the cannon, but probably the idea that red has in mind is to keep the game complex so that the time difference can be used at the advantage. Yeah, it looks like he's trying to blitz the blue player, so the guard here gives support to the cannon to jump and get some diagonals, and at the same point blue can come back to the center, and he will for sure try to get rid of this pawn, because even if the pawn is out for 1 pawn, then it will be 2 pawns remaining, and the 2 pawns can be linked and pushed together, supported by the cannons or the knights. So blue should try to exchange, and after get the knight in the fortress, and that may be a way to win. We can think of the intermediary move, cannon check, that would force the cannon to go somewhere else and block the idea of a cannon here. But for now, I don't get why king here brings something, probably to bring the cannon in the back, I'm not sure yet. Knight here. Knight here is a nice move, because if pawn there to block the cannon attack, then the pawn is hanging, and here the cannon is in not a better place than it was before, and there is some pressure arriving, but still the cannon can go here and defend. Yeah, that's the move played. So in that position there is a threat, and a second threat may arrive. Because it's harder to defend with one guard, because you cannot use the linked guard. That's losing a pawn for blue, if I'm not wrong. But still, blue will be half a point in advantage. So that will be a tense game. I really don't think it will end with a checkmate, but there is higher chance that blue wins by point. So that will be 4 points for blue and 2 points for red if the game ends that way. But maybe red will find something to gain advantage in terms of points. And a tricky knight like this may be useful, like knight here. That would force the pawn to go here because this square is controlled, and when the pawn is here, check, check, and probably bring there, or trying to play a fork. When there is not so much material back, then the king here is a bit more playable than it is sometimes. Knight here is controlled by the cannon, and blue should really recycle the cannon, like for example no, not right now, has to bring the pawn. And as we said, the cannon is here in a bit more fragile position, but the only way to take that cannon with red is to take it with a knight, and the knight is not really in a square easy to take a cannon here. Don't forget that if blues manage to go here, he will secure an opposition king and win the game using the Big Chang rule. Cannon here may be played, yes. The cannon cannot go check here because it's pinned, and the king cannot go back to the center because it's controlled by the cannon, so maybe this move will be played to avoid. Okay, king goes here, but still it cannot be used for the cannon. Knight here, that would exchange. I'm not sure, because simply pawn there and the knight is locked. Pawn knight here to secure. That's creative. Careful if the cannon can check and win back the cav, the knight, if there is something there. And what's probably on the idea is to threaten that weak pawn, for example a king to the center, that would provide a support for the cannon. But I really think that blue is trying to play the clock, and that's a way actually. So the game began 5-2 5 to 2. So I will have to stop it in like a bit less than 15 minutes and count the points if no one, if the situation doesn't evolve to an end game. And I recall that double passing, if one player decides to pass and the other player pass, it leads to point counting, but that's a very nice checkmate that blue secured. That's very puzzle situation, because here we had a check with the knight that is used to control the central square, and blue went to the only bad square, so red went to the only bad square, so cannon there, that's checkmate, and because the king cannot go back to center. If the king would have go here, which was a situation almost similar, then it could secure that. And yeah, that was a nice checkmate in the end. So the game ended, and that will be 7 points for Fabian. Give me a few seconds to prepare next round, and we'll play that final round.